welcome back to Community Pink Room. I am the host, of course, Kiara, the founder of Community.tm, and I am here today with Jacob.
Hello, hello. Hi,
Welcome.
everyone.
And thank you, Jacob, for joining this episode, this podcast episode, because it always amazes me when people want to be on the podcast that, I've created here because, the whole thing is about community, and it's not just I don't want to just have people who I already know on the podcast. It's such a pleasure to have people who I've never met and all around the world and stuff like that so that we can share and grow together.
Yeah, I'm really happy to help you share your voice. I
Yes.
love seeing anybody putting themselves out there and starting up
Hmm.
this community, like you said. It's
Yeah,
it's inspiring and it's well needed right now. I think, especially in this day and age. So
for
happy
sure.
to be a part of it.
For sure. I think it's super needed right now because I don't know why, but it's as if, and you probably heard this before, but it's like we're more connected because of like social media and stuff, but I still feel like we have like more ways to be connected and stuff so that we can make bigger changes in the world and like
Right.
better changes for everybody. At least that's what's in my mind.
Yeah, it's starting to use our technology and all this comfort for the
Yes.
betterment of humanity, not just our own
Yes.
comfort,
Yeah.
for sure. Well,
Yeah.
that's this is a whole other topic, but that goes into like the age of Aquarius. We're coming into the new age there, and all this technology and things are happening
Oh.
for a reason. Yeah, but
Hmm. Oh
that's a
yeah,
whole
for
other
sure.
podcast right there.
For sure. There's so much to talk about with the horoscope signs. And you know what? I also love having people, as you just mentioned, that the age of Aquarius is because I know little things. Like from my journey, I naturally learned about horoscopes more and things like that, and like the birth chart and all that stuff. But I never really was able to dabble too much into one thing to learn it fully. The only thing that I really can say I know is how to kind of be kind to people and, you know, share the little things that I can share. That's really all that I learned over the time and how to
And
be a better version of myself.
really, that's all you need to do actually. And
Right.
this comes from do like a more kind of scientific approach to
Hmm.
understanding myself and spirituality.
Right.
But obviously, um, it requires you to understand all aspects. But what
Hmm.
they're discovering in science nowadays, and what it's been told about, and they call the Hermetic texts. So
Right.
like these religions. What this basically what they're saying is the universe is a fractal. So in every point lies the information of everything else. So
Right.
just by you paying attention and being aware and just trying to better yourself, naturally
Hmm.
these things are going to come up for you, and you're going to
For
just have
sure.
that understanding. But just because of the way that the whole system is set up, it's really quite beautiful. That's
Hmm.
and for me one of the signs of my awakening, so to speak, would have been like 11:11 for me, because
Right.
it was just coinciding with so many deep introspections or pivotal moments in my life. I would see these numbers, and then the more I started to appreciate and realize they were synchronicities, not coincidences,
Right.
the more it started happening, and the more I began to experience and just naturally find the things that were going to get me where I wanted to go.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really nice because even now I've been doing a lot of the what do you call it? The synchronicities, but with the numbers. So like I see a
Mhm.
lot of like 333. I see a lot of like
Right.
1, 2, 3, 4, and like my younger sister, she bought a book that tells you like kind of just a little breakdown of like each time. So if you see
Right.
888 or if you see 1, 2, 3, 4, and so I've always just like I see those as like true nice signs as well. And like those have really helped me. It's so nice that we get signs throughout the journey. It's not just
Yes.
like you're just walking and you're always fighting to, speak your piece. There's always like kind of like affirmations and confirmation that you're on the right path.
If for sure, and it's there's one resource that I use, and really it's just the internet. I just
Mm-hmm.
type in 333 meaning, and
Yeah,
there's like angel numbers, and it's funny. I've noticed actually. So typically, if you do it enough, you'll get the same page or the same numbers will come up. Sometimes you forget, and you'll
for
see the
sure.
same answers again. Um,
Oh,
but
okay.
as I've been growing, funnily enough, different pages have been coming up, so different meanings for the numbers
Really?
have been, yeah. So I think it's important that when you have signs like that in any sort of form, not even
Yes.
necessarily numerology, is they're not always literal.
Yes.
This is something that I learned about too as well. Is that what let's say that these are our angels or our spirit guides, our ancestors that are helping us, right?
Mm-hmm.
um, if they're on a different dimension, so they're on a different aspect of the universe,
Yeah.
they can't directly communicate in the physical form because they're
Mm-hmm.
not here.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to find ways to kind of, they're
Yes.
connected to us, but they're not fully embedded.
Yeah.
So our mind can't pick up on what they're saying, and their mind can't really pick up on what we're saying. So they have to
Mm-hmm.
find unique ways to bridge. So it's
Yes.
important to keep it flexible and don't take anything way too literal. Don't take yourself
Yes.
too serious. Is a
Yes,
it's,
yes. And that's very, very, I think that's also becoming a new thing in like adult world. Like I just turned 25 in
okay.
July 25th, but a lot of it now I feel like adults are saying like don't be too serious because when you be too serious, it's blocking these kind of things from happening. I don't know, it's just
I think kind of what you mean is when it's almost like you're taking something too serious and you focus on something so hard, you get tunnel vision. You
yes.
end up blocking out all of the joys in life. Like that's like what the secrets of manifestation and things like that. That's why they say if you are inherently a negative person, you're only going to continue to get negative things. And that's
Right.
not because there isn't positive aspects to your life. It's
Mhm.
because you've only trained yourself in your mind to
Mhm.
see the negative things.
Yes.
You could win $15 and then lose 10 of it, and all you're going to remember is the $10 you lost.
Exactly. Because I have a very childlike spirit. I don't know if like a lot of Leos are like this. I love hanging around kids because I feel like we are on the same vibe at times.
I'll tell
And
you what.
mhm.
Sorry, keep going, keep going.
Yeah, and we just like we have fun. Like we just enjoy the day. We do a bunch of stuff and just have fun. And I feel like if I were to be serious all the time, it would be very, I don't even know what type of like reality I would be living in because then I wouldn't want to do anything or have too much fun or explore or be open to even this thing about, angels and them trying to communicate with me. It would always be the very harsh thing to me. That's
Right.
how I feel. Yeah.
No, that was so I did a course,
Hmm.
a meditation course, and a lot of they talked about is the divine child, but the inner
Right.
child, the inner innocence, and that is what we need to embody,
Right.
and not necessarily because everyone sees children as sort of not intelligent, but that's not the truth. They're open minded, they're caring, they're empathetic, right? That is what we need to embody as we grow, as we continue to grow, to not lose
Yes.
that. So you're so right, and I'm actually so my birthday is in 2 days now from the time you're
Ah,
calling. So I'm on the cusp of Leo, and I'm not sure what's the other one. Do you know? Is it
I
Virgo
think
or
Virgo's
Libra?
coming up. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been told I'm the other one, but I looked up. I did like the more specific one, and I've always identified with the Leo. But same as you, like I love playing with children. Like
Oh,
I
yeah. So
find it's
see.
always been yeah, it's always been a natural thing for me. Like I babysat my cousins when I was younger, and I'm always like when I get bored by myself in my house, like I'm the most random kids, childlike person you'll meet, like dancing around and making funny voices, and
Exactly.
that's just my process. I think that's what I think keeping that open heart and open mind is super important. You're right.
Exactly.
So don't feel bad about that for a
Yeah.
second.
Yeah, for sure. But before, like at least maybe 2014, as I'm getting older, I feel like, oh, okay, there's this thing now where I have to be more serious or like more adult-like and stuff like that, but it just didn't feel right. And now with the spiritual wisdom that I have or the knowledge that I have now, I know that there's no way for me to even use that in life too much. Obviously, there's times to be serious and anybody listening, do not be serious because there are serious times and you have to be serious, but definitely life is you have to have fun as well, right? And enjoy it as well
Yes,
to the
for
fullest.
sure,
Yeah,
and keep a light heart.
exactly.
Even in the heavy moments and the serious moments, because
For
you're less
sure.
likely you're less likely to hold on to that for too long and
For
cause unnecessary
sure.
pain,
Yes. Oh,
right?
I love
That's
that. Yes.
yeah, that's the key is make you take all that baggage off your heart, clean it up
Yes.
a little bit, make it as light as possible. I'm definitely a philosopher at heart.
True.
I really enjoy finding easy ways for people to comprehend my healing process because I know that it's relatable to everybody.
Yeah,
So
it's always the simple stuff. Even like with my little shop, it's like it's not necessarily like I have to have a inventory of 100 billion things, and you know what I mean? It's literally about just creating something that come from the heart that has good energy and that, is
that is
gonna be good for a good cause. And then
the key to abundance right there,
yeah,
in
exactly.
all forms. Yeah, no, they keep doing that. You can't
Hmm.
really fail when you're doing
Yeah.
that because you'll always get something out of it. I've been meditating, and I'm not always very keen on keeping a schedule like a daily meditation. That's something I've been working on, but
Hmm.
just recently I've started that and just giving myself that 5-10 minutes a day to pay attention, and
Very
then
good.
kind of focusing on that right before bed. I've already
Sure.
noticed the changes in myself. Now I've
Well,
been doing this for close to the same amount of time as you, 2015, 2016.
yeah,
So it's easier for me to fall back into
for
that
sure.
healing process or that growing process. Yeah. So what I wanted to talk to everyone about, I guess,
Yeah.
is is the correlation of our growth and our consciousness to nature and the environment and Mother Earth, of course.
Yes.
Um, Now, it's not a hard leap to understand that we are all connected to to Mother Earth, right? We're standing on
Yes.
her right now. Um, but when you really start to look into the life of trees, actually, and that brings up this book that I'm holding in my hand here. It's called "The Hidden Life of Trees," which has a lot of great knowledge. You'll realize that the environment, the ecosystem, works on a very similar basis as to how a thriving community would work. In the ecosystem, in the trees, is actually they're working much like a family. So when you look into a forest, and this is a new kind of science coming out, I don't know how old it is, but
Mhm.
specifically when it comes to fungus, right?
Okay.
They actually connect the root tips of trees, and it's like a neural network. So
Really?
the same signals that our brains are using to communicate with itself
Yeah.
are the same signals that trees use to communicate. And an example of this would be you have a forest and a tree gets attacked by a bug or something like that.
Right.
The trees have natural chemicals that will start producing and it'll help fight off. It's just the same thing as our immune system, as we have
Right.
antibodies. We get a cold and our body gets to work. But the amazing thing about the trees is the other trees will realize they'll pick up on this scent and they'll start producing it themselves. And there's
Wow.
actually been cases of trees that have died or started becoming sick, and other trees start sending nutrients to that tree to keep it alive.
Yes, I heard something about that.
Right.
Yeah.
And the same thing with they recognize now that there's science coming out that mother trees can actually recognize their offspring.
Wow.
And what they'll do is, I don't know if you've ever seen like BBC Earth, right? Those really, or like
No.
those nature documentaries, that kind of thing.
Probably a few, but not really, to be
Yeah.
honest. Yeah.
So the one thing I really like watching those because I find it very interesting. But the one thing I always find that they do overplay is this like eat or be eaten lifestyle in the jungle. And now it's
Right.
true that I mean
Yeah.
I'm not denying that definitely there is that aspect, but even with plants, they act like it's this big race to the top, and I'm gonna get over top of you before you get all the
Right.
sunlight. But what will actually happen is the older trees will send nutrients down to the smaller offspring
Right.
that are only 20 feet tall, whatever, just getting the bare minimum of sunlight. But they
Mhm.
can actually sit there growing for 20 to 50 years, depending on how long. And these bigger trees will support them until one
Wow.
day a lightning strikes or they get sick and they die, and then
Mhm.
the race begins. But it's not this dog eat dog world.
Right.
It's a thriving community. They're all
For
working
sure.
together, and even these
Okay.
other um, another cool thing that I watched, and I wish I had the documentary for you. Now I don't
Mhm.
know if you subscribe to this, but it's definitely worth
I'll write it
a
down
look.
now.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's called Gaia. But
Oh,
it's,
I
have you heard of?
heard. Yeah,
Yeah,
'cause yeah,
100% recommend. Now, I'm into all sorts of things: aliens, ancient civilization,
right.
spirituality, all that kind of stuff. It's got all of it on there, and it's got
Wow,
really
okay.
good ones. And I think I got this documentary off of there, but if not, you'll find something like it. But
Yeah.
it was in New Zealand,
Mhm.
and there was this yellow flower that most of the locals regarded as a weed. They got rid
Mhm.
of it as fast as they could. But it would grow like a weed, right?
Yeah.
And it came to a point where there was an old farming area that had just been overtaken, and they just let it go. They're like, okay, we're just gonna let it grow back. And this
Mhm.
weed dominated the hillside. All you could see was this weed. But what they found a couple of years later, or I'm not even sure if it might have been shorter than that, was
Mhm.
that this weed was actually fixing the soil and creating spaces for the native species. So you'd
Really.
see sprouts of these trees coming up, and it's almost as if they were the gardeners. And then within 20
Right.
years, they have a fully functioning forest. And it all
Wow.
started with that plant. So that
Mhm.
plant may have looked like it was aggressively growing and
Right.
trying to take up all the resources, but
Mhm.
what it was leaving behind was an amazing foundation for an entire
Right.
forest to grow.
And
And
that yeah. A-
uh,
And that's what I like feel like would be good for us to as people and things to get more knowledge on, because I feel like we see something that has been taught to us that is out of the ordinary, or just to cut it, which I understand some things are probably not good for the environment. Some things are like, what is that thing? A poison ivy and all that stuff. But
I think you're talking about like invasive species, stuff like that.
yeah,
Plants
yeah.
we brought over. Yeah,
Oh,
invasive
okay.
animals as well. Yeah, for
Right.
sure.
So those things I understand, be watchful of and stuff like that. But then there's also like when we as people just think like, oh, dandelions, cut them down because they don't look good, or you know what I mean?
Right.
We lose that opportunity to learn about the knowledge of dandelions, and are they actually bad for us? And then, maybe years
Yeah,
come
you're
by, and then they're now saying they sell dandelion in the store now. It's really good. It has really good healing properties for the body, and I actually have drinking dandelion tea and stuff like that. But it's these things that relate to your stories, because that plant that they like didn't like, and then now it grew into the forest. That just seems like something that has sprout from a seed, like a seed
mhm.
turns into a little plant, and then a plant turns into something more. And I think that that's exactly what we should be more aware of. That.
Right, and that's exactly why I wanted to share this, is because
Mm.
when you really just sit back and observe, and
Mhm.
of course this took a lot of people getting involved and doing some scientific research, which is definitely required.
For
Um,
sure.
but when you just sit back and observe, you can intuitively pick up on these things, and you can start to see it. And someone who is already practicing meditation, if you go out and you start to read this, you'll really start to see the value beyond the words, I guess
For
is a good way
sure.
to put it. Because yeah, this is definitely, this kind of knowledge and this energy is definitely
Mhm.
needed in this day and age. And this is where I wanted to connect it to consciousness.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna try and I'm not a scientist, but I do enjoy it, and I'm gonna
Right.
try and explain it a little bit in this. But um, uh, so for a long time in a lot of spiritual traditions, uh, vibration has always been key. They always talk about, the vibe or the vibration, and how they say everything is vibrating. And this is like ancient knowledge. This was back in the day. If you were in a mystery school or anything like that, this is what they would teach you. And now science
Right.
is starting to catch up to this. Quantum physics, they see everything is vibrating. Nothing is at a still point. Everything in this world has a vibration and has an energy. And everything in our bodies, everything about us works on that system. So, what I
Yeah.
believe is that when you have more of this sort of environment around you, when we allow natural things to grow back, is we're going to naturally attune ourselves to that kind of vibration. We don't even necessarily have to know what's going on, because it's going to be naturally a part of our environment. And we're
For
just going to
sure.
naturally uh, tune in with that frequency. And I think that's why it's super important. We start to fight back to just allow nature to grow. Like if you have a big yard, maybe just take a section of the back of it and just let some weeds grow. See what grows there, the
For
wildflowers.
sure.
You could even
Yes.
take a further step if you wanted to, and just gather some local native plants and plant them in
Mhm.
your backyard, because even
Mhm.
that helps. Because
For
all the
sure.
animals around us, they're relying on that kind of thing.
Exactly. And that's like another thing, like even I said yesterday, like I would love to like go and help rebuild the coral reefs, right? Because I think for so long it was like a tourist attraction or something. I'm not really sure. But obviously it's like really beautiful, the coral reefs. But now that they're like super dead, dried out, and stuff like that, we are now learning how vital they were to the system of the fish and for the earth.
Right.
And then that's what makes me very sad about the whole thing is because we make it a tourist attraction and then the second it gets damaged, it's like, oh, now here's all the information about how good it is and important and vital and we just destroyed it. And it's like, oh my gosh, why can't we learn these things way before we even touch them? You know what I mean? It's
Really loudly to what's been happening, even a lot just in the turn of the century, what we've been going through as humanity.
right.
Unfortunately, sometimes you got to get burned to know that the fire's hot. You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
it's an unfortunate part of the process.
That's true.
Um, and now everyone's starting to wake up, but now it's like, okay, we see what we're doing is wrong. So
Right.
now we need just individuals like myself and you
Yeah,
to spread the word, to go out there and do something about it. No act is too small, because you have
for
no
sure.
idea what it could spark. Just like that little weed in the bush there. That's
Mhm.
He's an important little guy, but all you
That's
see is
true.
something you want to cut with your lawnmower.
Even what you're saying is so right because sometimes it's I think we have a lot of time to kind of figure this out in terms of like we don't know how fast change can actually go. Like if we all consciously made an effort, we don't know how big that could change the world. Like maybe it might just take a year to fix the environment if we actually buckle down. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Or
I
so.
people I think you're definitely onto something there. And this is something I've been wanting to get into more. And I
Yeah.
almost did, and then kind of I'm a bit of a procrastinator sometimes.
Right.
But there's global meditations that happen all the time. And I
Yes.
wish I could connect you with them. But
Oh,
first started getting into this, that's what I realized is like if everyone just sat down at the same time and just meditated on,
yes.
peace
Yeah.
and love and healing,
Yeah.
the world would I sincerely believe the world would change in under a day,
Yeah.
because uh, that's the other thing is people don't realize how powerful we really are.
Mhm.
And there is so much that I could sit here talking for a day straight as to
Mhm.
why that is true. But go out there and definitely anyone listening, and even
Mhm.
you and even
Mhm.
myself, I'll take my own advice.
Yeah.
Keep looking for new information, because there's so much stuff out there, so much stuff we have
Exactly.
access to that
Yeah.
can empower you. And
Mhm.
it really the internet is an amazing thing. I think we've
Mhm.
started to abuse it quite a bit with social
Yeah.
media and things like that. But
Mhm.
that's even that I what on my Instagram I basically kind of muted every one of my friends, or
Right.
most of
Oh.
them, and
Uh-oh.
then and then and then I just followed spiritual pages, and now
For
most
sure.
of my feed I get a couple memes here and there, but most of my
Yeah.
page is just inspirational quotes.
For sure.
Because what it was before was a lot of it, like I would get these depressing memes about
Oh
suicide and
no.
anxiety, and I would just be like, I would sit there. Some of them I found were funny, but then the odd time I'd be like, this is just promoting anxiety in myself. This is
Right.
this is
Yeah.
not healthy.
For
Maybe
sure.
funny here and there, but yeah, definitely got to be careful what we put out there, what
I
we absorb.
I 1,000,000,000,000% agree because
Yeah.
even myself, like this year has been tricky. Like even just 2020, it's just been like, because um, I said this in my last podcast episode, but I said that I wanted to have like meetups and I had this whole thing kind of planned out. Like I kind of wanted to do it right away once I started the community. So I started community
Right.
in November 2019 and then July so because that's winter for us and then for the summertime I wanted to start doing meetups and stuff like that and then obviously it was COVID and stuff so I felt very like just like a lot of things going on. At first, I wasn't, it is what it is. I wasn't like hurt by it. But then it was kind of like just the constant posts being online on social media. I realized like there's a lot of information, as you said, the memes and stuff like that, and the quick little how to feel better type of posts. And it's very hard when, you know, I feel like some of the posts don't really relate to everybody, or they don't really give people the clear pathway on how to do it for their journey. They just like give them the information, if that makes any sense. So it's like, here's the popsicle, eat the popsicle, but it's like people aren't really thinking, is this popsicle what I need on my journey? People are just absorbing that popsicle, you know?
Yes,
And
yeah,
I
they're kind of, and that's unconscious scrolling for
Yeah, and
sure.
I feel like that's kind of I was doing that, but I wasn't like, oh, this information, apply it to myself. I was just like, I realized that I shouldn't be applying it to myself. So then I was just like, oh, I don't know what to do. This is too much. And I saw it as another problem that is happening in the world.
I hope this is kind of what you're speaking about, but it has to do with the way that we live our society. I think everything's like on demand, right?
Right.
We get that quick fix. We get start on your self development or your self healing or spiritual journey, whatever you want to call it, working on yourself, and you go in there subconsciously with this everything is quick and easy mindset, especially
Right.
if you're someone like myself. So I came from a pretty comfortable middle class family in
Right.
Canada, right? So I'm, you know, there's not much really to complain about as far as the terms of living goes.
Right.
But when I started working on myself, I realized that I was expecting results like that, and I was expecting everything to just fall into place and just
Mm-hmm.
work out for me.
I feel
And
that.
I think that's definitely not. It's definitely not going to help you. And I think that's also happened with social media and things like that. Is we don't really um, understand what we're putting into our system. We're just looking for that quick fix, and we don't take
Mm-hmm.
the time to actually to realize it. And if anyone's feeling like that, I would say delete your apps for a week and a half or two. Just
Mm-hmm.
get take a break. I've done that
Yeah.
multiple times. I
Yeah.
still
That's
do
what
it
I
every
did.
ever do a couple day breaks. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Just
what I
just
did.
if you're feeling overwhelmed, then take a break.
Mhm.
Really don't make it too complicated for yourself.
Yeah.
Um,
And like I even had to take a break with community. It wasn't community that was hurting me. It was just like the social media going on, checking posts. It was the whole setup that it was just taking away
right.
from my wellness. And so I had to just go. Everybody's so kind in the community. They know that I'm a one person doing this. They understand life is what it is. So they know, they just say, go take your time. Like, don't worry. So I really
Right.
appreciate that too, people who understand that. For myself, it's just a super important thing what you just said, because I think it's also like, don't take a break because you'll miss out on a bunch of stuff, but it's really like the value and the things that you will gain from just
Yeah.
a few hours, a few days, a week, is that it just brings you back to life. And then that's where you can kind of focus back on the environment and like start learning more things about that, and like doing like important things to change the world. Not that nothing on social media is important, but just like, more other things important too.
Yeah, you can start to prioritize and discern what you really need and what you
Mhm.
want too,
Mhm.
right? But it's the what you just said there about taking a break, and this is
Mhm.
something that has been hard for me because
Mhm.
I come from like my father, for example. He
Mhm.
was uh, heavy worker. I guess he was a workaholic, and it's a
Right.
really, I would say it's definitely a respectable trait
For
because he
sure.
provided a lot for us, right?
Yeah.
But the truth is he never really had time for himself or even for his family. So he was doing all this great
Right.
stuff. We were
Right.
able to go on vacations here and there.
Right.
But coming from my perspective, that's not the sort of balance that I want. And I've had to
Right.
just recently kind of go through this growth process of figuring out the right balance of resting and
Yes.
working hard.
Mhm.
And funny actually, because I worked hard. I used to travel a lot, and I used to work
Mhm.
long days. Minimum 10 to 12 hours were my days, and I
Wow.
was you know 20 hours drive away from home.
Mhm.
So I was working quite a lot,
Mhm.
and I just recently decided, okay, I'm gonna take a break. I ended up quitting my job. I'm like, I need to. This
Wow.
isn't aligned with what I'm doing.
Yes.
And I
Good for
was
you,
also able
honestly.
to,
Mhm.
yeah. So, but it was hard because I was working
Yeah.
for my dad. This is a,
Okay. This is
this is
a
an
big
intricate,
thing in your
yeah,
life for
yeah.
sure.
Oh yeah, this is so I'm gonna just gonna scrape the surface for everyone
Yeah.
here. But so I was also able to be really good with my money. So I ended
Mhm.
up saving up and I bought some land in northern Ontario, a
Oh,
big chunk of land, and I want to do the off grid, homestead, that lifestyle.
let's go.
Um, yeah, right. Actually, the other thing I want to do, and this will be years down the line when I'm more developed myself, but I want to open like a spiritual retreat up there. Build some cabins,
Yes.
and because that I love sharing this information. I have so much of this information that, well, to be honest, nobody really wants to hear most of the time
Right.
when I try and share it. So
Mhm.
I'm so great. I'm very grateful to be on here. I
Oh
love
no,
this opportunity.
anytime.
Yeah.
Anytime. Thank
Anyway, so I decided that I would just last minute. I was like, I'm gonna live in the moment. It's right around July, I think it was, beginning of
Mhm.
summer. I'm like, I'm just gonna live in the moment. Whatever. I had set myself up so I didn't have to work through the summer, and within a day, so this is like a 10-hour drive for me because I'm coming from Southern Ontario.
Right.
So within a day, I was just like, screw it. I'm gonna go up to my land by myself. I'm just gonna drive up there. I'm gonna camp and that little break for me, that 3 days that I took for myself, just
Mhm.
spontaneous. I I got so many signs and affirmations and
Mhm.
synchronicities
Mhm.
that this is where I needed to go.
Yes.
I had a direction, and I had
Yes.
this new outlook on life,
Mhm.
and it was just so beautiful. And
Mhm.
honestly, I think there was still more to gain from it, and I'm still gaining from it.
I feel
So
that.
do not be afraid to take a break, and that is something
Exactly.
I've actually been trying to let my dad know, and he's actually taking a break this October or this September. Sorry,
Wow.
yeah, because I've been like it's great you're doing all this, but like take
Influencing
it
the
easy.
parents.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
I mean I don't want to get too cocky here, but
No, no, yeah. It's good. It's good to take care of each
yeah.
other because if you learn something, and this is what I learned, if you learn something that you know is truly valuable, you can just share it with somebody because then if you hold it to yourself, that's like wisdom never shared on earth. You know what I mean? Because
Mhm.
even if someone has had a similar wisdom uh awakening or awareness that you have, it's still different. So it's good to share how you have gained your
Right.
thing, right?
I think, yeah, for sure, go out there. But it's also from someone who I would say I would overshared before. For
Mm-hmm.
one, you got to be careful because and this is something recent for me. Actually, I saw a
Sure.
post on Instagram and it talked about oversharing and how you're
Mm,
actually leaking your energy.
for
That's a
sure.
big thing. You want to
Yeah.
be careful, but also even if you share, you could you could have God on a plate, let's say, and like this is
Mm-hmm.
God right here. This is the answer to everything, and
Mm-hmm.
someone could smack it at your hands and say, "That's not true. Get out of my face."
Yeah.
Then they have every right to do that. So when you are sharing, do not always expect your openness and honesty to be reciprocated.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I will say it will always be reciprocated, but it may not always be in the form that you want it to be. So if
Exactly.
that's the thing with karma isn't always an instant transaction like we're
Yeah.
used to in this day and age.
Mm-hmm.
Karma is a force. So I do something good for this person and they spit on my face.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that sucks. But what that's bringing for me in another place is it may not always be easy to see if you're just focusing on
Yeah.
that incident right there.
Exactly. And
Um,
also, if you're oversharing or if you're sharing because you care about the person, but it looks like oversharing, you have to know that um there's no problem in being patient. Don't lose your patience.
mhm.
Don't lose these other things about life that are valid and important to this situation. So it's like even for example, if you today, Jacob, last minute you were like, I can't come on the podcast, I don't feel right, or whatever the terms would be, I'm not gonna get mad about it. I'm going to make sure, okay, I understand. You know, this is
Yeah.
just the way it's supposed to be. Because if you're always thinking like one thing, like, oh, if I tell somebody this is how they're gonna take it, it's like that's leading for a lot of other things to happen. Whereas it's like, I'm gonna share this. little thing. I'm not going to overshare because I'm going to protect my energy and I'm going to protect my space and I'm going to kind of, I'm going to be aware of how to address said person. It's like it just changes the game when you're going into the situation with awareness versus kind of reaction, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had some very personal experience. I actually had one just before I came on here,
Really?
with someone that I love dearly, right?
Okay.
But another one specifically, actually. So someone really close to me, I just recently I'd recognized he was becoming aware,
Mm-hmm.
but I just really realized he's going through what they I think they call it like the eye of the needle, where
Mm-hmm.
you kind of first get kind of blasted into this, and it gets really overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of
Spiritual life?
you
Is
get
it?
yeah, spiritual,
Okay.
yeah. So
Yeah.
like spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
And he was just very, very toxic, and I just had to keep like there was this incident where he just started screaming and yelling at me, and I'm like, okay, I need to just take a break. I'm like, I gotta go. I gotta go
For
for a
sure.
walk. I
For
gotta take
sure.
some space. And he, I'm the worst thing that ever happened to him. I'm making him so upset and everything, and yada yada
Mm-hmm.
yada. Tore
Mm-hmm.
me apart. Tried to make me feel as bad as he felt.
Right.
And then 2 months went by, and I visited him, and I was sitting with some of his friends, and we were talking, and and that exact moment he referenced to me walking away, and he's like, yeah, he actually taught me about that. So
Right.
definitely don't underestimate the power of planting a seed, is what I call it,
For
what you
sure.
say with that patience.
Yeah.
Yeah, speak your truth. Don't
Yeah.
expect people to always reciprocate it right away, but
Yeah.
always speak your truth, and don't be afraid to recognize when you're wrong too. That's
Exactly.
something that I've really been trying to, because I did notice, I mean, everyone has ego, so I
Mm-hmm.
noticed with my own ego,
Mm-hmm.
whenever I get into a conflict or I speak my truth and someone speaks badly of me, in a healthy dose, I always try and say, okay, where can I apply that to myself? Do I think
For
that
sure.
this is something I really need to look at?
Yeah.
Um, because it's a tricky balance, and that one there is something I'm still kind of walking the tightrope on
Right.
to find my comfort zone. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you definitely have to be aware, because sometimes when people overreact, it's coming from a true place, and
Yeah.
that's important to remember as well. Because
For
sometimes we
sure.
bottle up trauma.
For sure.
So
For sure. For sure. For sure.
yeah.
100%. Because yeah, like for myself and maybe others can relate, it's like I did a lot of growing on my own, right? But I
Hmm.
knew that in order for me to really get everything or a lot more things out of myself to heal, to work on, I needed to kind of be in a relationship where I could see that side of myself and heal those aspects of myself because I guess you could say like I'm a romantic, it's a big part of my life and like,
Hmm.
also there are issues and things that come with being a person who over romanticizes the world because then you're almost not you think that the relationship should be perfect all the time
Right.
versus actually like being with that person when or like recognizing a good fight from a bad fight or like those types of things, right? So it's just like
Yeah.
even with the situation that you just mentioned with the guy, it's like we need those interactions to learn. And
You know,
obvious obviously we don't want anything too bad or extreme to happen or anything, but at the end of the day, like we need each other
yeah.
to learn things and
So
to grow.
yeah, for sure. That it's funny that you say that, because actually I wasn't gonna mention it, but
Right.
so right before that, I kept seeing one of the angel numbers, and what
Mhm.
it was saying was that it was a really positive one, like, oh, there's an opportunity for growth and new beginnings and this kind of
Mhm.
thing. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And then this really, really perceivably bad thing happened. But in
Right.
truth, it was a really good growing experience for me,
Yes.
because not only did I practice standing in my truth and protecting myself,
Yeah.
um, but I also was able to reflect and truly try and take an aware step to an ongoing trauma that I was experiencing with this person.
For sure.
So it's definitely necessary. Now,
Mhm.
if you don't mind me asking, are you in a relationship right now
Yeah.
with yeah, because that's something that I'm fearful of,
Mhm.
because I went through a bad relationship,
Right.
and it was now it's kind of scared me, and I know exactly what you mean by over romanticizing, because I
Yeah.
always expect people to be perfect, and I
Yeah,
always expect the best out of people, and I got to remind myself and say, okay, I'm definitely not perfect yet,
for sure.
and I know my self worth, but when are you being unreasonable? When are you really expecting too much of someone? And I
For sure.
definitely feel you on that.
Yeah.
Uh, and I wish I could have that experience as well. That's
I
something that is going to happen when it happens. But
Yeah. If that's what you want, then obviously I feel like it will manifest for you. But I feel like for myself, like I don't know if it's like also a Leo thing. I know other people obviously experience it, but like
right,
uh being a Leo as like the rising or the cusp or anything like that is like we think we're perfect and like honestly we are cool for sure.
oh
But
yeah, yeah,
right?
we are.
We know we're different. We know we're all this stuff, but at the same time, we also have these other aspects to us that, we we are kind of more hard, like very lion, very protective. We have these things that, we have to be able to learn how to like be soft again, open up, but
Mm,
like also protect ourselves in the healthy way. Like it doesn't always have to be like protect ourselves and like never let anybody in. It's like protect yourself, just like, and it's also about finding and putting yourself in a good situation with someone who else is nice and has these attributes that you that you value, right? Because I feel
right.
like that's a very, very important thing. So for example, and it's also like about compatibility, but for example, like a job, right? If you're working for a company and it's always fast paced, they don't really value if your mental wealth is okay because they're always just sending you work and asking for it back and stuff like that. You have to
Get
find
out there, get it done.
Yeah, get out there, get it. You have to find a relationship where it's like, okay, like say the relationship is the job place. It's like that relationship is going to be like checking up on you. How are you doing? Or
Hmm.
like if you say, this is still too much for me, the job place really helps to bring you down and make you realize the job is never going to like start to trigger you and start to say, well, you need to work harder. It's like you need to find something
Yes.
that works with your downs, works with your ups, and then you work with that person's ups and that person's down, and like it becomes like a harmonious experience. And like for me, I never really had like the good relationship experiences prior to this one, right? So I will admit that I have had a lot of things to work through the past months, um, just about letting go of this because you never know what's in your mind subconsciously, like that's deep in your mind that is
Yeah.
causing your reactions, right? And
Yeah, I'm
y-
I'm uncovering new stuff every day. Sorry
exactly.
to interrupt. Yeah.
No, no problem. So it's like exactly that. So that's why it's important to just kind of, just find someone who will help you. And before the relationship, I really relied on nature. And this is coming back to why I am just very like I want to do everything that I can do to help nature because nature was that reflection for me to help me and be kind to me even when, nature's never
Nature is
gonna
almost
hurt.
like your therapist in a sense.
Exactly. Nature can definitely be your therapist, but also give you that realness because it's not going to be like, hey, girl, life is all sunny over here and you're just a human with problems because trees get, as you said, lightning comes, trees get all
Yeah.
kinds of things.
Bugs
So,
will eat them, and yeah,
yeah, it's
storms will
just
knock them down.
exactly. It's just about learning from a nice teacher, which can be nature or anybody, learning from a nice source that can understand life and give you a little bit of that understanding so that you can use that and apply that to other circumstances. Because
Right.
if I were still in my ego thinking I'm the best, I'm looking for a good partner. I would never think I'm the one with any problems and like that's not really my direction of life anymore. I'm not saying that was
Yeah.
my direction of life before, but it's definitely something that, you know, it's very good to say, okay, I realize I have some things to work through. I'm just going to try my best to be kind to people and,
Yeah, there's definitely something I struggle with myself, being like, oh, I was a bee's knees. um, but it's also hard too when you come out of a relationship where it's very easy to paint the picture of someone being a bad guy, like for
For
example if you
sure.
get cheated on, stuff like that, right?
For sure.
So then it's like, and that's what I find a lot of people, well, and I did myself, is they always find a way to paint the other guy as a bad guy, and that
For
is a very debilitating way to view yourself, and it causes you a lot of pain and trauma that you don't need.
Mhm. Mhm.
And something that I mean, as a Leo, you might be able to relate to this. Holding on to things for
Oh
far
my
longer than they're
gosh.
needed.
You couldn't have
Trust
said
me,
anything more relating. Oh my gosh.
yeah, it's an uphill battle. But
Yeah.
like you said, we're super cool and we're super awesome. So
Yeah.
we we get through it with a smile on our face eventually.
Exactly.
But yeah, that was something that really got to me.
And it's
And now even
mhm.
go ahead.
No, it's definitely about just to talk about that for a second about, holding on to things for so long. It's about even though it's in your mind and decades have gone by and it's still on your mind. Practice being patient. I mean, not patience, present. Know what true being present feels like, and then I would. This is what I did. So do what be present as possible, and then have another moment of true presency, and then present, and then present, and then present, and then you'll realize, okay, that thing happened 10 years ago. We can let it go. It didn't happen just yesterday. Like, you know what I mean? Because then
Mm-hmm.
that's how I've been able to overcome holding on to things for so long as if they literally happened yesterday. And because it makes me forget of the person I've become and the person I've changed and all the days in between. It literally does i'm
Yeah, for
if i'm
sure.
if I'm just thinking of those moments. So it's definitely important to just like practice being present and realize who you are and what you have now and what's going on now. So yeah, just a little.
Yeah, that no, you're definitely right. I definitely feel that that's the path that I've been moving towards,
Mhm.
and I've done a lot of healing, and
Mhm.
actually been really, so this fear, I guess it accumulated me, this terms of relationship, and this is a more personal thing, but it accumulated into a serious fear, like a
Mhm.
anytime I would get close to that opportunity,
Right.
something would always kind of go amiss. But I also realized that because I was holding on to this trauma, I was
Mhm.
attracting the same situations over and over again, the
For
same type
sure.
of people. I think
Mhm.
that's a really good indicator. If you're someone out there who's relating to this conversation and is like, yeah,
Mhm.
that's definitely me, and you're going through the same type of people constantly, it's
Right.
because you haven't done the work on yourself to really attract something better.
For sure.
Because I really do believe that your inner attracts your outer. So
For
if
sure.
you are an unhealed person who is blaming everyone else and everything else around them
Mhm.
for their troubles in life, they're just gonna keep finding people that are going to confirm that existence, and they're going to do the same thing to you. So
Mhm.
definitely doing what you said, keeping present
Yeah.
and keeping that uh, keeping out of the past and just keeping that high vibration is
Yeah.
going to bring you everything you need.
And
Yeah.
maybe I'll have to make a little pointer on the community page just about some steps to do to like um get past your trauma and like work on the healing so that you don't attract the same over and over again because I've been through
Hmm.
that and it's very to now that I've been on the opposite side and now I finally felt like I've had a breakthrough. I feel like I know like it's a real grind up here. Like it's like you have to go through it. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
you can't just go to friggin' like a store and buy something to make it all go away. Like you have
No.
to go through it and then the rewards are going to be great because you're going to be a new person and you're going to be attracting new things, but you just have to have that breakthrough and you just
Mm. That's
yeah.
wait, totally the last year for me. So everyone, beginning of COVID, everyone was all, this year's so bad and this, that, whatever. And I'm like, I'm having a great year. I'm growing a lot. And
Hmm.
then I asked for something really big of the universe. I asked for like this is what I want. And you
Right.
know what happened right after is I got hit with a wall. I
Yeah.
There was a point where it felt like I had to experience all the fear and doubt I've ever felt through my life
Mhm.
in one moment.
Mhm.
And but moving through that, like you said, it's going to turn your life for the better. And that's
Mhm.
what people, that's why I like to kind of challenge myself. And when I have a fear, I like
Mhm.
to sit with it, or I'll go out and I'll do something in the moment to
Mhm.
kind of push past it. Like I
For
have
sure.
a silly fear of the dark. So sometimes when I'm
Okay.
walking through my house, I will intentionally stare into my dark basement,
Oh my
trying
gosh.
my best not to envision a
Okay.
monster climbing up those stairs. But
Good
yeah,
for
I
you though.
definitely
Mhm.
facing that fear is definitely an important step, and
Mhm.
understanding that it has a purpose in your life. It can be so easy
Exactly.
to dismiss it,
Yeah.
but it's essential.
And it could honestly, it depends what it is, but it could have a spiritual meaning as to what is happening
Of
and what it
course.
means. And spiritual could mean a good thing for sure. It could be
Yeah.
a positive sign. Mhm.
Well, yeah, I think everything, almost everything, has a spiritual meaning to it
Yeah.
because, as I said earlier, with the fractal, right? So like there is always a way to look at it in that regard, in that perspective. So you're
Mhm.
definitely right there, but it's not always appropriate.
Right.
I've learned that before.
For sure. Oh yeah, for sure. I don't suggest going on
Yeah.
the highest roller coaster or something to get over your fear. I don't know. Some things you just have to choose for yourself, but you don't have
Yeah.
to break through, all these things.
Yeah.
But I have a
Baby steps.
question.
Okay.
I have a question. So, what are some things, like small or big, that we can do to help Earth consciously, like today? Maybe like three little steps or tricks with spirituality and helping the Earth. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna go through one came to mind.
Mhm.
This one has really been helping me. So I was kind of like a anti-establishment when I first started in spiritual development. So I was like,
Mhm.
the government is messed up.
Right.
It's just wrong. So I
Mhm.
didn't like any of it. That's kind of not really where my direction of the off-grid living is now, but that there was a bit of that in it, in that
Mhm.
idea. But what I started doing was I started appreciating the comfort that we built. So
Mhm.
I mean, we're unsustainable right now. That
Right.
I'm not unaware of,
Yeah.
but um, have gratitude for the comfortability that all of this has brought. There's
For
been a lot of
sure.
pain and trauma that we've had to endure and unfortunately create to get
Mhm.
here. Um, but I think it's really important that we start turning the table, uh,
Mhm.
sending a more growth mindset towards something that we deemed negative before.
Mhm.
Um, that actually
That's
brings me
very
to my
good.
next one,
Mhm.
and this comes with evolution of our consciousness, of our conscious awareness. But do your best to understand what they call unity consciousness and neutrality. And really, what that means to me is in every single moment, you have an opportunity to be someone better. But
Yeah.
the only way that you can really do that is to look at it, what we were talking about earlier, that objective awareness. So hold
Mhm.
that objective awareness and recognize that every opportunity is an opportunity for growth, no matter
Yeah.
what it is, good or
Yeah.
bad.
Mhm.
And watch yourself when you're falling into what they call the polarity of things, the duality, because
Mhm.
that, vibrationally speaking, from what I've been told and what I've experienced, is often much lower. When you have
Mhm.
that neutrality, you're actually working through the heart. And well, you're working with the heart and the mind, not just the
Yeah.
mind.
For sure.
So there's two there.
Mhm.
Um, what's the next one? Honestly, oh, and this one
Mhm.
I advocate a lot, and I've actually seen that, um, uh, like you posted about the Black Lives Matters and things like that,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And I actually there was a different one. I went to a protest, Freedom for the Children or whatever in Toronto. It
Mhm.
was for like the child smuggling and human trafficking, things like that.
Wow.
And
Mhm.
I think it's great to get the word out there. But
Mhm.
if you truly want to make a difference in this world, focus
Mhm.
on yourself.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, and this is becoming scientific fact, the
Mhm.
universe is a fractal. So everything you do within yourself to better yourself is
Yeah.
going to better the whole, without a
Yes.
doubt.
Yeah.
And this is something that's very counterintuitive, or I guess counter logic, because you know, uh, in a very mind or ego based mindset, you got to work on things around you. You got to change the things around you to change your life.
For
But
sure.
when you change the things on the inside, the things around you will naturally fall in place for you to do exactly what you need and exactly
Super
what you
true.
want.
Super
So
true.
if you're following any of those movements and stuff like that, it's great.
Mhm.
If you feel passionate about it, get that word out there and
Mhm.
share the knowledge you have. But always remember that it really isn't going to amount to not anything unless you
Mhm.
start to heal your own traumas.
Exactly.
So even let's say I really wanted to help the indigenous community, the native community, which I do,
Yeah.
because I live right by a reservation.
Mhm.
There's really nothing I can do for them until I work through my own judgment towards their peoples and I
Yes.
heal my own traumas.
Mhm.
Because then everything I'm doing, I'm actually acting through that trauma, which is a
Mhm.
whole other aspect. But
Yep.
yeah, heal yourself first. That is, it's a very simple and common one, but it is far more profound than you can. That's something you really
It's
have to
really deep.
experience to understand what I'm saying. Yeah,
Yeah,
heal
exactly.
yourself first.
And I can like vouch for that because a lot of things even now it's just I have to organize it in myself and like understand it myself and do it. So as you're saying like the Black Lives Matter and the indigenous
Hmm.
people and even the trafficking. It's like, okay, say I don't like the trafficking and I stand up because I used to be an activist, right? So I also
Right.
know kind of like if you want to stand up for something, you also have to apply it to yourself, right? So,
Exactly.
if I'm standing up for the child trafficking, I also have to know, okay, what things may I be might be unconsciously or consciously um, spending my money on that, that is come from
Right.
child trafficking or like these things that can actually help better the situation by applying it to you or not even
Of
just as
course.
like that, but like even deeper. Like it's really
No,
good
yeah.
to. Hmm.
Any little bit, any aspect for sure. I totally agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
I love sharing. I love sharing what I've experienced. It's
Hmm.
it's a very it's a very fun and it can be a very healthy thing to do.
For
So,
sure. And like we just obviously scratched the top with a lot of the things, but I think that
oof,
even having this conversation where we haven't met before and not even had a conversation this long before, it's really nice to
no,
show this and, have this experience for sure.
yeah, no, I've really enjoyed talking to you. It's just been
Hmm.
fun, and I'm definitely gonna keep in touch.
Yeah,
Uh, because
anytime.
I would love to come on here again at some
For
point
sure.
and help the community grow.
Yes, thank you.
Pun intended.
Yes, it all applies though. It'd be a great
Yeah,
thing, bring everybody and we all get this thing organized
yeah.
and working well and sustainable and all these good things.
It'll be a well-oiled machine soon enough.
Yes. Well, thank you all for who tapped in and who listened to this podcast episode. I definitely will, when I'm editing this back and listening to it back, it'll be so nice to just have this refreshing reminders come to mind and just to know that like more people are out there working on themselves, helping to better Earth. And that's such a great thing to be having conversations about now. And I also just want to thank you, Jacob, for being on this podcast episode and spending this time with me. And I hope that you can have a beautiful rest of your journey onwards and a lot of amazing signs and things happen for you and you stay strong and you be patient and you be open to love and all these great things that can transform your life as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you to everyone that's listening. It's been a real pleasure. I got a big smile on my face.
Awesome.
It's
Me
been a good
too. So see,
it's been a
works out.
it's been a good Saturday. I can't complain
Yes.
on that
Oh
that front.
yeah. Praise.